The moment she tried to stand, Mira knew something was wrong. Her body strained, her legs trembled, but her skirt wouldn't move. It was stuck. Glued. Her heart sank. A cold rush of disbelief washed over her as her classmates began to chuckle, a few of them already pulling out their phones. Whispers turned into giggles, then into laughter, sharp, cruel, echoing around the room like knives made of sound. She tugged again, her face flushing bright red as she realized she was literally glued to her chair. The hem of her skirt strained with every small movement. The glue gripped like cement. And as she looked up through tear-filled eyes, she saw Jasmine, the queen bee of the school, flawless and venomous, holding up her phone, filming. "Oh my God, she doesn't even know she's stuck," someone whispered. "That's what she gets for acting all shy and weird. That's how it always was." Mira Bennett. The girl who sat alone, who wore hand-me-downs, who scribbled poems in the back of her notebook while everyone else laughed at TikToks and selfies. She never fought back. Never raised her voice. Never even looked anyone in the eye. She had been the school's invisible target for years, bullied, ignored, mocked. But never like this. Before we go deeper into this powerful story, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the strength it takes to rise after being humiliated, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Heartline Story. Let's show the world what courage really looks like. For Mira, school was never a place of learning. It was survival. Every day, she tiptoed through crowded halls like a ghost, clutching her books to her chest. She sat in the back of class, careful not to draw attention, and she spoke only when called upon. The teachers barely noticed her. The students noticed her too much, but only to target her. Her father, a kind but quiet man, worked nights at the hospital as a cleaner. Her mother, once a passionate art teacher, was now confined to a bed after a brain aneurysm left her partially paralyzed and unable to speak. Mira took care of her every morning before school, changing her, brushing her hair, reading her favorite books out loud. Then she'd walk through the school gates like a soldier heading into battle. Jasmine and her crew were the worst. Rich, popular, always perfectly dressed, they treated people like Mira as entertainment. They mocked her hair, her thrift store shoes, the way she held her pen. One time, they locked her inside a bathroom stall and ran away. Another time, they added glue to her locker's vent so her hands stuck when she tried to open it. Every time, Mira said nothing. She simply wiped away her tears and moved on. Her voice had been silent for so long, even she had forgotten what it sounded like. But today, this day, was different. As she sat glued to her seat in front of a classroom full of laughing teens, something inside her shifted. She could feel her humiliation burning under her skin, like a fever rising. Her fingers dug into the desk, and for a moment, she squeezed her eyes shut. It felt like time slowed. The laughter around her faded, and all she could hear was the sound of her own breathing. She had two choices: shrink deeper into herself, or stand up. Her heart pounded. And then, slowly, she reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and tapped "Go Live." The screen lit up. Her face appeared, red, wet with tears, terrified, but defiant. And in a trembling voice, she began to speak. "This is what it looks like when you're bullied. When people think it's funny to hurt someone who's done nothing wrong. When you're too afraid to speak, until you can't stay quiet anymore." She tilted the camera around the room. The bullies stared in stunned silence. Phones were lowered. Laughter died. Jasmine's smirk vanished. Mira continued, her voice growing steadier. "My name is Mira Bennett. I've been bullied at this school for 3 years. Today, they glued me to my chair. And now, I'm showing the world." The live stream exploded in minutes. Comments flooded in. "We see you, Mira. You are not alone. Name and shame them." People started sharing it on social media. Activists, former students, even celebrities started reposting the video. Hashtags trended. The school was tagged over and over. Back in the classroom, Mira, her hands trembling, her dignity torn but her spirit rising, gripped the arms of her chair and pushed. The glue held fast, but she didn't stop. She braced herself, lifted with all her strength, and the fabric of her skirt ripped. She stood, breathless, triumphant, while the room watched in stunned silence. Within an hour, the principal arrived, followed by district officials. The video had made national news. Jasmine and her crew were suspended pending investigation. The school held emergency assemblies on bullying. Anonymous students began submitting reports about things they'd seen and experienced. Myra's courage had unlocked something far greater. But Mira didn't stop there. The live stream continued well beyond the classroom. She answered questions. She told her story. She showed the world how bullying doesn't always leave bruises on the skin, but it leaves scars in the heart. The next morning, #IStandWithMira was trending. Messages poured in from bullied kids across the globe. A support fund was started for her mother's care. Colleges reached out. Talk shows invited her. But Mira stayed grounded. At home, her father cried for the first time in years. Not because of sadness, but because he saw his daughter finally rise. In the weeks that followed, Mira became a student leader. Not because she sought attention, but because she knew what silence felt like. And she never wanted anyone to feel that way again. She spoke at schools, mentored younger students, and helped form a student-led anti-bullying council. Her poetry, once hidden in notebooks, was now being read in assemblies and published in local magazines. Still, she never forgot the feeling of being glued to that chair. She carried it with her, not as pain, but as power. Because from that moment forward, she never sat in silence again. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to Heartline Story. Help us show the world that even the quietest voice can roar loud enough to change everything. Special request, comment below. I stand with Mira. Let's flood this video with love, courage, and unity for everyone who's ever been pushed down and finally stood up.